Hey everybody, Lawrence here with Dirty Basic Terrain, coming at you with another one. Now I'm continuing on with my desert themed terrain that I've been building lately. I kind of wanted to do some, just some like random rock scatter, but it's like I didn't want to do just rock scatter. I kind of wanted to do a more like a pillar column style build. So I came up with these. Now granted, these are similar in the way I built the Underdark terrain, but with a desert theme. But again, I just wanted to get some random scatter for my desert themed terrain, and this is what I came up with. But before we get to it, I want to give a big thank you to all my patrons. Without your guys' help every month, I greatly appreciate it, and I can't thank you enough. Alright, let's get to it. This is a pretty simple step. I'm just taking some XPS foam and I'm cutting it down to various thicknesses. I've gone an 1/8 inch, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch. Because I want the layers to just show different layers, honestly. So right now I think I'm cutting a 1/2 inch thick, but I do cut much thinner pieces. I want that variation in thicknesses for each spire. Now here I want to start tracing out patterns and start cutting out each individual layer. I could do this with a hot wire cutter, but I'm going to stick with the blade method because these are pretty thin and it's not that difficult. But the thing is, with each successive layer, I want to make sure it's slightly smaller than the previous layer, so you get that like spire, pyramid, step look to it. At least that's what I'm going for here. And of course here I'm using some Alien's tacky glue to glue each individual layer together. Now with this basically almost pyramidal steeple look that I'm going for, I'm gluing each smaller layer on top of one another, just so I get that point at the top, or kind of a point. But for this type of terrain, you could put bigger pieces on top of a smaller piece and it'll look just fine. I mean, I thought about doing that, but I just wanted to keep it simple and go with the smaller and work my way up. Now, be careful if you try this method. I just want to smooth out all the harsh edges because there are a lot, and this is, for me, I found the quickest way to do that. Just take a lighter and lightly rub it over all the different areas that I kind of want to, just get rid of those rough edges. You can cut them or sand them if you want, but this is quicker. But do this in a well-ventilated area. Make sure you can't see it, but I do have a small fan blowing everything away from me. If you don't want to catch anything on fire, you just want to melt it to smooth it out. And of course, homemade texture paste. I make my own, so doing something like this makes it relatively cheap. But I'm just brushing it all. The whole thing is going to get cut. Well, except for the very underneath bottom, everything's going to get covered in this nasty looking goop. I like goop. Now, this looks a little bit on the rough side, so I want to smooth it out somewhat. I could have made a different batch of texture paste, but I really didn't want to do that. So I'm just using some water and smoothing it out somewhat with the brush, which will make the next step so much easier. But again, this is just a matter of brushing water over it, getting it wet, making it a little, smoothing it out somewhat, and just making it more pliable. And now I'm taking a really stiff old beater brush and just basically dip it in water and then carve lines around to give it even more of a layered look. Here I'm priming it up. I'm using this really cheap airbrush paint I got off of Temu. I mean, it worked, but it was really thin and acted more like an ink than a paint. And I had to go hit areas a little heavy to get the darkness that I wanted. Yeah, I'm using brown, but, I just wanted to try this cheap paint I got out. It worked. Here I'm just putting down a base coat of some true ochre. just want to get 100% coverage and don't need that brown showing through. So just slop it on. I mean, there's no easy, nice way to say it. Just slop it on and get everything covered up. Clown puke time! I'm using various colors just to break up the monotony of the one solid color, like I usually do, because I just want that slight variance and it give a little more visual interest. So I picked a couple natural tones that might show up in sandstone, and just played in some stripes. This will mostly be covered and won't really be completely obvious, but you'll be able to see it's there. Of course, now I'm going to be using some golden sunset and giving a really heavy overbrush over top of this thing just to basically start deadening down the clown puke. Of course, now I'm going to be using a khaki, and I'm basically just giving this a heavy dry brush just to make all the different details and ridges and everything pop a little more, and even deaden down the clown puke just a hair bit more. That's why I'm doing a heavy dry brush instead of a light dry brush. And of course, now I'm going to use desert sand. Go figure, do desert pieces, and I'm using a color called desert sand. What a genius idea. This is just a real quick light dry brush just to make all the edge really extreme edges pop a little more, and just to give it that dried, worn out look. Of course, I'm using some homemade brown pigment powder, and I'm just a few spots that the cracks and crevices where some off-ball dirt may have gotten into. I know you typically don't see this with a lot of sandstone and stuff, but I wanted it there just for a little visual interest and just to make it pop a little bit more, if that makes any sense. And of course, I'm going to give it a quick spritz with some isopropyl alcohol just to lock the pigment powder in place, because if you don't do this, it will rub off. Maybe, eventually, depending on who's touching it. And of course, my favorite tough manufacturer, Huge Miniatures. They're just my go-to. And I'm just going to place some desert grass tufts all over the place. Not all over the place, but just where, it's just enough to, it's like, okay, this isn't completely arid and dead. There is some life there. But, again, it's visual interest, so make it look good. I am relatively happy with these 6 pieces that I did. They're going to match in well with the rest of the desert stuff that I'm doing. So, I mean, why not? Don't ask me why I wanted to make desert terrain, but I just did. I hadn't done desert terrain in a very long time, so I figured, you know what? Why not? And again, I'm really happy with the results, the layered look I'm getting with this terrain. I'm just very happy with it. And I have absolutely no complaints with how it turned out. Hey everyone, if you made it this far, it means you watched the end, and as always, I can't thank you enough. If you liked the video, hit the thumbs up. If you want to see more, click subscribe. If you want to show me your desert builds, I'd love to see what you're doing. Go to the Discord, link down below, and post pics there. Again, I would love to see what you guys are building. So, but again, guys, listen, did the winter thing. Now I kind of want to do a bunch of desert stuff because, cold, hot, But I'm relatively happy. I'm happy with these. So they're going to look good on the table. Someone's table eventually. Hint, hint, Dungeon Minister. But they were fun to build and not really that complicated. So, but as always, guys, when you're building your terrain, desert, whatever thing you're building, remember, the only person that matters is you, because it's your terrain.